All right, the time is finally here. We're just like 4 days away from the first round of the 2025 NFL draft. We've been doing the research, we've been digging, we've been breaking it down. It's time for my final mock draft before we get things rolling on Thursday. A lot of intrigue, a lot of interesting moves to be made. All 32 teams have their first round pick, so it is a ton of interest. A ton of eyes are going to be on this. Who's going to make the moves? What are we going to see on Thursday? But let's get into it. My final mock draft for the 2025 NFL draft. Okay, number one on the clock, the Tennessee Titans. Pretty consistently for about a couple of months now, we know Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami, is going to be the first overall pick to the Titans. And I'm okay with this pick. I think Cam Ward is a first round grade. I think Cam Ward has the potential to be a franchise level quarterback, has a lot of experience playing in college. And you just so desperately need a quarterback in the NFL. There's such a high value on the position. It's absolutely ridiculous. You really feel like you can't win if you don't have a decent guy. Look, you don't have to have a Patrick Mahomes, a Josh Allen, a Lamar Jackson at quarterback, but you need a guy. 8 minutes left, down 4 in the fourth quarter, 3rd and 7. You need a guy that you can believe can go move the sticks, pick up a first down, keep the drive alive. And that feels like what Cam Ward can be. It feels like he can be a franchise level quarterback. Look at Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, not a top 5 quarterback in this league, has a fantastic team around him, but he's really good in the system, takes care of the football, makes winning plays. So you don't necessarily have to reach that peak level at quarterback. I like Cam Ward here at number 1 to the Titans. Okay, number 2, the Cleveland Browns. This feels like pretty much a lock now too, looking at all the betting markets, what we're seeing here. Browns gonna stay put at quarterback. They could potentially go Sanders here, I thought, but we're riding with Joe Flacco, it looks like. Best available player on the board. Some would say maybe a little bit overrated. I think this is just gonna be an impactful guy for the Cleveland Browns. Give me Travis Hunter out of Colorado. Browns need wide receiver help. They need cornerback help. I think we're probably going to see primarily cornerback play from Travis Hunter, even though I really like what he gives us from receiver. But maybe we'll see some certain packages, put him out on the offense, some explosive plays. Going to have to cut back on the snap count for him because you really don't want to risk losing a player of his caliber by playing both ways, overworking himself. But I definitely think he should play both ways. He can be impactful on both sides of the ball, and it's something Cleveland needs. Cleveland needs a little bit of juice, some excitement in the area. The Deshaun Watson trade has obviously sucked the soul out of this franchise, but they got Myles Garrett back still, so I like this pick here for the Browns at 2. Number 3, this is where the draft starts to get very interesting. Giants, lots of rumors swirling around. Look like we knew who they were taking. Maybe not. Go to Travis Hunter late last week to get the private workout. There's some real division in the Giants front office. Are they going to make the move at quarterback? I don't think so. I think they're going to stay put. I think the level heads are going to win out at the end of the day. Do they need a quarterback? Yes. But are you going to win with Shedeur Sanders right now? Absolutely not. Do not think so. Go with the best available player. Abdul Carter feels like a home run pick out of Penn State. Elite pass rushing potential. His ceiling is unbelievable. He could be one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, I think. I'm not worried about the little injuries that he's picked up. Hasn't had the full workouts going through the offseason stuff. But he's going to be fine for the start of the regular season. Got to do a lot of rebuilding in New York, but let's get some foundational pieces in the trenches. Abdul Carter is a stud off the edge. Okay, Patriots at 4. The Patriots are kind of in a tough spot here. You're not going to get the value, I think, ultimately at the number 4 pick. Potentially, maybe they do a little gamble, go with a guy like Ashton Genty out there. They spent a lot of money in free agency on the back end. In the trenches on the defense, but they really got to rework the offensive line. Will Campbell does not feel like that elite type tackle pick early in the draft, but this is not a great offensive line draft overall, especially in the trenches. Like, there's some depth there, but the high quality players aren't quite there. And it feels like Will Campbell is clearly the best lineman in this draft. I think you take him, whether he plays left tackle, right tackle, maybe he moves inside. I think he's going to be a really solid starter for you. I don't care about the short arms. I mean, I care a little bit, but they grew. He's got some magic growth hormones. Maybe he'll get better. Patriot fans probably going to feel a little disappointed. They're going to have to settle, but I trust Mike Vrabel's going to build a winner up in New England. Plus, protect your quarterback. You got a young quarterback who looks like he's going to be a real nice player in this league in Drake May. So, Will Campbell to New England at 4. Jacksonville at 5. Jacksonville, I got 2 potential picks here for the Jaguars. Maybe the Jaguars go Ashton Genty. I don't think they go wide receiver here. I think they go with the safe pick. They go with the number 1 interior defensive lineman, Mason Graham out of Michigan. Keep building on the trenches. Again, we see these trends in the NFL. We saw what just won the Super Bowl, the Philadelphia Eagles. Offensive, defensive lines. They won in the trenches out there. Now, they had a lot of great pieces everywhere else, but those were the big standouts in the Super Bowl, so everyone's going to kind of jump on that bandwagon. Plus, keep building up that D-line. The D-line's already pretty solid. Let's create even more havoc on that front. You're not going to have to worry about defense for the Jaguars. You got to figure out the offense a little bit, but I think if you still believe in Trevor Lawrence, you're going to be able to find a receiver maybe in the second round of this draft, add some more pieces there, but defense is going to have to carry the day for the Jaguars because maybe looking for a new quarterback here soon. I like Mason Graham a lot. He's a complete game wrecker, big boy in the middle. Just go watch him dominate Alabama 2 seasons ago in the Rose Bowl. Was popping off the screen in that one. Okay, Raiders at 6. This is a potential trade back spot. I think maybe New Orleans moves up to potentially get a quarterback. Maybe he's somebody else. Maybe Vegas is okay with not taking the best running back on the board. But I think if you're smart, if you're Vegas, Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, they want to run the football. This team had the worst running backs in the NFL last year as far as a production standpoint. I'm taking Ashton Genty here. I think Ashton Genty has the potential to be a home run pick. Could be a guy, I mean, his confidence is out of this world. I love it. He's saying, draft me, like draft the guy you can't tackle. That's me. He's 5'8". He's showing his athleticism, putting up dunk compilations. Now, I would hope he would be able to dunk with the level of athlete he is, but I think this is a great pick. They want to run the football. They got Geno Smith extended. They have a great tight end in Brock Bowers. Offensive line is solid. Defensive line's pretty good. The defense needs a little bit of work, but I think Pete feels confident he's going to be able to make those adjustments, upgrade that defense later in the draft with their free agency signings. Running back. This is going to be a massive piece for this Raiders offense. I hate that the division's so tough, but I think the Raiders are a lot closer than people think to being a competitive team in the league. Okay, the Jets at number 7. I think this is a pretty locked pick. Potentially, they could get a little spicy, go tight end, go Tyler Warren here. This be a nice fit for him. They believe in Justin Fields. They trust Justin Fields. But I'm going with Armand Bembou out of Missouri. I think he's clearly the best interior offensive lineman. He's probably going to move into guard. Maybe he plays right tackle. But the Jets desperately need offensive line help. They need to upgrade the offensive line position. I trust Aaron Glenn, again, another defensive guy to approach the other defensive positions later in the draft, especially with the Jets defense is still really, really talented with the pieces they have. They're going to want to run the football. They got to protect Justin Fields. They're riding with Fields, I think, for long-term success. They still have the belief in him. So bulk up that offensive line. Bembou, who is awesome pretty much all season in the SEC. He's a road grader guy. He's big. He's nasty. He's mean. And that's exactly what I want in the trenches on my offensive line. So give me Bembou to the Jets here at number 7. Okay, Carolina at 8. I think this is a pick that's really coming into focus now. A lot of speculation, a lot of movement. Could they go wide receiver? We got Terry McMillan on the board. We got top corners like Jahdae Barron. Maybe help the back end out with Malachi Starks. I think they're going edge here. They're going to have to get after the quarterback. I mean, Bryce Young and the team did a really solid job last year. The offense was not really an issue. The defense was so bad. But from a schematic fit, from a team fit, it seems to be Jalen Walker, man, out of Georgia. The guy pops off the screen. He wreaks havoc on pretty much everybody. If you just watched him in Georgia's biggest games against Texas, dominating Texas in both matchups there. You can move them all over the place. Feels like a Micah Parsons type player where you could just kind of put them all over the line, send him on different blitzes, get him in there, coming straight off the edge, off ball, linebackers, whatever. He's just a game wrecker. I really like Jalen Walker. I think he's going to fit in perfectly. Let's just get some defensive pieces for this Panthers team because I really like the offense. You still got Adam Thielen, you still got Xavier Leggett, you got Chuba Hubbard, who's a stud in the backfield, and I really believe in Bryce Young's potential as a former number 1 overall pick. So Jalen Walker here to the Panthers at number 8. Number 9, I think this is where the draft is starting to get interesting. The Saints are on the clock. Probably lost Derek Carr for the entire season. You got to figure out something. This feels like the spot here. If nobody trades up, nobody moves, I think it's going to be Shedeur Sanders to the New Orleans Saints. I don't think Sanders is a first-round quarterback, but quarterback is quarterback, and quarterbacks are all getting overdrafted these days. Now, Sanders doesn't really even have to play much this year. You can sit him the first 8 games. You can play like Spencer Rattler. You can lose a bunch and then roll out Sanders, help him get that development, be bad, get another top pick next year. And if you do see what you want from Shedeur Sanders as a guy that could be your franchise quarterback, then you can trade the pick. If you're the worst team in the league, it's a very, very good quarterback draft coming out next year. You could get a haul for a top 3 pick if you're the New Orleans Saints. So I do like the approach here if they give the right preparation to Sanders. If they sit Sanders, let him develop, get him out there after your record's already terrible. The fans are going to be the fans. We know that, but they got to clear this cap hell. They got to figure some things out in New Orleans. So give me Shedeur Sanders at 9 to the Saints. Okay. The Bears. Very interesting pick here. Could they go running back? I think so. I think they're going to try and make a move to potentially jump the Raiders. Like if the Raiders trade with the Saints at 9 and the Raiders are sitting at 9, maybe they move up. They swap with the Panthers to get in front of the Raiders to potentially get Ashton Genty. I've been wavering back and forth. I don't think they're going to pull the trigger on Amarion Hampton right here. Could they go D-line? Walter Nolan's nice. Malachi Stark's good safety. Offensive line, Banks, I think potentially to fix the tackle position. Watch out for that. But ultimately, Ben Johnson, this offense, they run a lot of 12 personnel. They already have a pretty solid tight end in Cole Kmet, but a guy who just pops off on the tape, Tyler Warren out of Penn State to Chicago. This guy can do everything. He's like a actually talented Taysom Hill, 6'5", he can run, he can block, he can pass catch. I mean, watch him against USC this past season. He does everything. You can line him at quarterback. If we're running the tush push, we can put Warren in. We're running the tush push if it's not banned. He is an elite type player out there. Not quite as good as Brock Bowers, but still, I think a super valuable asset and just another weapon to help out with your young quarterback. You can still run the football really well. It's a really deep running back draft, so I expect the Bears to attack the running back position a little bit later in the draft, but Tyler Warren at number 10 feels like a really good pick for the Bears, and you know what? I don't love that as a fan of the Minnesota Vikings. Number 11, San Francisco. On the clock, a lot of needs. We shed a lot of cap this offseason, a lot of cap casualties, lost a lot of guys on the defense, and you're about to pay Brock Purdy coming up here. Are you going to pay him $40 million? You're going to pay him $50 million per year? I don't know, but he's going to demand it. Trent Williams getting up there. Age is a problem. The defense is also a problem. We got our guy Robert Saleh back there as the defensive coordinator. Could we see some secondary boost? A guy like Jahdae Barron would be a really nice fit for San Francisco. Help bolster that secondary. You lost Tre'Davious Ward, but I think they attack the trenches. I think they go offensive tackle, and I think they go with the best available left tackle in the draft. I personally think it's Kelvin Banks Jr. He's really solid. Now, the tape isn't all perfect, but week in and week out, he was a solid, productive guy. A ton of starts in college. I think he had like 60 starts in college, playing in the SEC last year, going up against elite pass rushers. Maybe, he's slow to get out there, but Trent Williams is probably on his final season there. We need some protection for our quarterback. If we're going to spend the money on Brock Purdy, got to upgrade the offensive line, keep them young. So I got Kelvin Banks going to San Francisco here at 11. All right, our favorite team. How about them Cowboys? Jerry Jones and the Cowboys on the clock here. And I think Kelvin Banks is a guy, if he's on the board, would be a potential fit for Dallas. Could they go running back? Amarion Hampton still sitting out there. Feels like a little early for him, but Jerry and then, Jerry ain't going to do anything crazy out there. Terry Ocean McMillan is probably screaming at him, but he's kind of free falling, man. Terry Ocean McMillan not doing good. Terry Oda, excuse me. Ted McMillan, whatever. I'm getting killed for that in the comments there. But he's free falling there. People questioning the work ethic, people questioning the route running. He's like a less talented Drake London coming out there, just kind of a jump ball merchant. We've been on this. I do think they go wide receiver, but they stay in state. Matthew Golden, a guy who flew up the boards in the draft process, a really strong combine from him, as well as if you watch the tape, anytime Texas needed a big play, third down, fourth down, he was their go-to guy. They were feeding him the rock, and he seemed to always get open. Super fast 40 time, really good route runner, strong hands. Overall, I think Golden is a really nice fit for the Cowboys. Pair him with CeeDee Lamb. You got Dak. You're paying Dak a lot of money. We got to win some games in Dallas. Or, you know what? The Cowboys are just going to be the Cowboys here. But I do like Golden. I think Golden is probably my favorite all-around receiver in this draft here at number 12. Okay, Dolphins at 13. The Dolphins are kind of in no man's land. I don't like the direction this team is going. I think their defense is, bad. Jalen Ramsey feels like he wants out. Every other week, Tyreek Hill feels like he's getting police called on him. Who knows with him? Is he going to demand a trade out of there? Tua is like one hit away from being retired from the NFL. DJ Mikey Mike and the boys at head coach, I just don't think this is going to work with Mike McDaniel at head coach. They're in a really bad spot. I think the Dolphins could be really bad this year. But if they're moving on from Jalen Ramsey, let's replace him in the secondary. Let's go with the best available corner here. 3 straight Longhorns off the board. I'm going with Jahdae Barron out of Texas. Barron, much more of that man-to-man cornerback out there, can play him straight up out there. Will Johnson potentially here. He's more of a zone guy. I think I'm not a huge Barron guy, but I'm starting to come around on him. The more tape I've watched on him, the more little bit of digging I've done. He's going to be a solid corner in the NFL. The guys are super high on him on the draft board, and it's a little bit of a slide for a guy like Barron. Let's get this addressed in Miami, but I think they're heading in the wrong direction, and they're in a spot where I don't know how much help they're going to be able to do for their team. Okay, Colts at 14. Tyler Warren's pretty much been the guy that's been mocked to them the most this offseason. They desperately need a tight end. They got to figure out the quarterback position. Is it going to be Danny Dimes this year? Probably. I don't know. Do have Jonathan Taylor still, can run the football, got to play a little bit better defense for them, but the division is wide open. This team desperately needs a tight end. No Tyler Warren's going to kind of suck for them, but I'm okay with going with Colston Loveland out of Michigan. Not a very good run blocker, not whatsoever, but he's an excellent route runner. He can catch the football, secure hands, really smart player, safety valve. So if you're going with Anthony Richardson, easy safety valve guy. If you're rolling with Daniel Jones, easy safety valve guy for Danny Dimes, because we don't need Danny doing too much crazy stuff in Indy. But this is, again, it's another team that Chris Ballard has never recovered from Andrew Luck retiring early on him. And they're pretty much on the clock, man. They got to figure this thing out in Indianapolis. They've been whiffing on quarterbacks. Obviously, it's been a disaster for them at the quarterback position the last 6 years, basically, for them. But Loveland out of Michigan, really solid tight end overall. So I don't hate the pick here, but you're pretty disappointed if you're a Colts fan and Tyler Warren isn't on the board for you. Okay, Atlanta here at 15. The Falcons could go wide receiver. Ted McMillan sitting there, potentially. Need to attack the defense, I think. You do have a young quarterback. Michael Penix is going to be your starter. Liked what I saw from him in his few starts last year. You got Bijan Robinson. You got Drake London. Kyle Pitts still there. I think we don't need to worry about the offense. We need to address this defense. It was one of the worst pass rushes in football for most of the season. There was a good stretch there where they were really getting after the quarterback, but they ignored D-line last year. I think you go with the top edge rusher, straight edge rusher in this draft, the most productive guy in this draft class. Give me Mike Green out of Marshall to the Atlanta Falcons. Had a monster season there, and that's what you want to see. A guy who plays at a smaller school, you want to see the production like through the roof because you're not facing NFL linemen out there. And that's why it's also super important what they do at the Senior Bowl. Mike Green had an excellent Senior Bowl going against these elite tier offensive linemen. Now you can say it's a lot different, not competitive games, stuff like that. But the guys who are strapping them up out there are always wanting to compete. So it was really important for him to show out. I like Green a lot, maybe not a well-known commodity, but we've seen a lot of success out of these hyper-productive guys from smaller schools. And Atlanta just needs a better defense overall. They need to upgrade that defense to keep the scores reasonable for Michael Penix and that offense. Mike Green here at 15 to the Falcons. Okay, Arizona kind of in a similar situation. Let's keep this defense bolstered. The Kyler Murray situation is the Kyler Murray situation. Love him, hate him. I don't know if he's a winning quarterback for you, but solid backfield for them running the football. The wide receiver position is okay. We need to see a lot more out of Marvin Harrison Jr. Let's get the defense going. Let's attack the interior of that defense. Best available defensive tackle here. We got Walter Nolan. We could potentially go Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, but I think Nolan's a guy who's really flown up the boards. He's a big physical athlete, excellent against the run, can rush the passer from the interior there. Does take some plays off. That's probably his biggest knock. His tape isn't the best, especially his tape at A&M. This last season was a little bit better at Ole Miss, but he's a guy that's very impactful, has all the potential in the world to be a high-impact interior defensive lineman for you. So Walter Nolan at 16 feels like a really good spot for him. Okay, our Bengals at 17, our Joe Burrow Bengals. You re-signed T. Higgins, you re-signed Jamar Chase. We got all the offense in the world. I like Chase Brown at running back in Cincinnati. For the love of God, can we get a defense for this offense? Just any defense, any sort of help. They do sign a couple of guys on the DNs. Who knows what the hell's going on with the Trey Hendrickson situation? They haven't managed to trade him. Maybe this is the, maybe draft night they trade him. They can get another first round pick or some second round picks. I don't know, but let's get some defense. Let's clog up the interior. This team was abysmal against the run last year. D-line, I'm a huge fan of my guy Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. Back-to-back D tackles going for me. He's an excellent run stopper, big physical athlete. Didn't do much of the workouts, didn't work out at the combine, had a hamstring issue there, but just bolster this interior defense for Cincinnati. We got to be able to stop the run so teams can't play keep away. If you can stop the run, force teams to, not dominate time of possession, get the ball back to this offense, the Bengals are a very competitive team because we know this offense can score 35, 40 points on any given night when they go out there. So please, get some defense, stop the run, get the football back, and help out my man Joe Burrow and the offense. Kenneth Grant at 17 here to the Bengals. Okay, Seattle at 18. Seattle's kind of in an interesting spot. They are a huge fan of what they got cooking on the defense. They think Mike McDonald's really going to bring a Baltimore Ravens level defense to them, and they think they are already there. But let's get the offense going. You sign my man Sammy D to a nice contract there. You get rid of DK Metcalf. You do have Jackson Smith and Jigba. We got Kenneth Walker still running the football. This offensive line was abysmal. We need to bolster up the offensive line. And my inside source is in Seattle. I've been talking to, they love offensive line. They're going offensive line. And I think it's not the sexiest pick. It's not the greatest pick, but number one true guard in this draft, Tyler Booker out of Alabama. I'm thinking you're going Booker right here. Solidify the interior. They kind of are okay with what they got at the tackles. But if you got a quarterback like Sam Darnold who really just melted under the pressure the final two games of the season from the interior, you gotta secure it. He does do a good job moving around, being mobile, but you gotta lock up that interior of the offensive line. And Tyler Booker, again, not a sexy pick, not going to get people ecstatic that they drafted him, but I think he's going to be a long-term starter in this league and as solid as you can get. Again, another big, mean, nasty guy for the Seahawks here at 18. Okay, the Buccaneers at 19. This is another trade back spot. Pittsburgh looming potentially for a quarterback. So we could see a team like Tampa trade back, Denver trade back, teams trying to scoop up and grab a quarterback potentially for the Steelers, but no trade backs in this draft. Tampa, we got to get defense. We got to attack the defense. Edge rusher is a concern. Linebacker is a concern. DB is a concern. We got Will Johnson. I think this would be an excellent pick. Malachi Stark's another very good pick, but they're pretty okay at the safety position. We go edge. We got Donovan Ezeraku. I butchered that. James Pierce. I think they're just going to get that mid-level guy. I think Jahad Campbell is an excellent, just monster in the middle linebacker, can control both sides of it. If he's dropping into coverage, if he's going to fit runs. This Tampa Bay team was great against the run last year. It's the secondary, or it's the back end that's been a real problem. They do need to get the quarterback. They did make some moves, though, in free agency. Give me Jahad Campbell, man. I think he's the best linebacker in this draft. I don't think it's much of a question. He's the best linebacker in this draft. He's a plug-and-play guy, impactful guy. We need to get back to the days of those nasty Buccaneers linebackers we had in the late 20-teens and 2020s. You know, my guy like Devin White out there were just wreaking havoc all over the field. And Jahad Campbell is a good fit here for the Buccaneers at 19. Okay, Denver at 20. The free fall of Ted McMillan stops right here. Get some weapons for your your young quarterback, even though he's like 50. Bo Nix, Ted McMillan falling to Denver. I would be ecstatic if I'm a Broncos fan. Look, not the hugest fan of McMillan, but at 20, he is a home run pick. He's got all the intangibles, great ball skills, 50-50 balls, jump balls, which is really good fit. It's a really good fit for Denver because Bo Nix, not the biggest arm, he's hyper accurate in short yardage situations, but you need to be able to stretch the field vertically. And if you got a guy like Ted McMillan, can go down, throw the ball to him, jump ball, go win those 50-50 balls that are more like 80-20 with him out there. It just adds a whole nother level to this offense in Denver. Get your quarterback some weapons. They attack the defense, which was already a very good defense last year in free agency. If McMillan's on the board, you gotta scoop him up. Potentially, we could see a running back play here for Denver, but I'm such a fan of McMillan at this point in the draft. I don't love taking him in the top 10, but at 20, excellent value. Low risk, high reward with the 20th overall pick. Okay, Pittsburgh. It feels like Pittsburgh's trending in this direction. I know Steeler fans aren't going to be super happy. Now our team's going to try and move up and snipe them potentially, but all roads are pointing to that Pittsburgh is going quarterback. If they take Jalen Milroe here, I would be floored. I think clearly some people have him as the second best quarterback. Maybe he's the third. Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss. People love the physical attributes of Dart. Big, strong, physical quarterback, pocket passer. A little bit more of what Pittsburgh is used to from a quarterback standpoint. But I do have some questions from him between the years. If you want to watch that fourth quarter against Florida, it's one of the worst quarters you'll see from a top-tier quarterback ever. Always felt like you want more out of Dart, but quarterback's such a high position of need. And it feels like Pittsburgh's getting desperate again. Mike Tomlin potentially could be on his way out. The defense is starting to get up there in age. You trade for DK Metcalf. You have George Pickens. You got to get a guy that can throw him the football. And if you do end up signing Aaron Rodgers, even better. You can sit Dart for a year, which I would much rather prefer from him. I don't think he's a first-round kind of quarterback. Hopefully you don't throw him in there right away. Hopefully we don't fall into another Kenny Pickett situation in Pittsburgh. But I know desperation breeds desperate picks. So Jackson Dart here at 21 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, this is a tough board for the LA Chargers. Chargers really don't have necessarily the best looking board for them. They do upgrade at the running back position, which they desperately needed. We need some weapons for our guy, Justin Herbert. But I really would have liked Loveland here. They got to address the defensive line. I think you lose a guy like Joey Bosa. Khalil Mack is getting up there in age. I think you go pass rush here. You go with the best available pass rusher. Luther Burden, I don't think is an excellent fit in LA. Potentially a wide receiver like Emeka Ibuka if you're going to attack the offense. But I think they go defense. And I think they go with Donovan Ezra, who out of Boston College. A guy who maybe needs a little bit of time to develop, so that's nice. He needs to develop his pass rushing moves. He's got a large arsenal. He's got to cut down on those arsenals and find his bread and butter plays to beat offensive tackles in the NFL. He's not the biggest, most athletic, most talented guy out there, but he's a smart football player, a guy that definitely fits the Jim Harbaugh MO of smart football players. Add him into this defense. Let's keep bolstering this defense. This team wants to run the football. You can get a wide receiver in the second round, I think, if you're LA. I don't love any of the tight ends here. I'm not reaching for any of those guys at this point in the draft. So if they don't go wide receiver, I like defensive pass rush for the Chargers. Just a tough break on the board because I felt like Colston Loveland was a lock if he could have fell his way to the Chargers here at 22. So pass rush, I'm okay if I'm a Chargers fan. Keep that defensive bolstered up. Okay, the Packers here at 23, and the board is looking pretty for them. Wide receiver, Luther Burden, very interesting. I just don't love Luther Burden. There's some real questions about his work ethic. Not a lot of good word on that. Really good on Saturdays, not great on Monday through Friday. If you get that burner, deep stretch guy, just doesn't feel like a number one wide receiver, and that's what this team desperately needs. They have a lot of 1B, 1C type guys, number two guys, no elite dog at number one, and I just don't think you're going to find a guy like that at this point in the draft for Green Bay. So let's attack the defense. I would have loved to keep the pass rushers going here, but I think a guy like Will Johnson is way too talented not to scoop up here. If you're the Packers, bolster up that secondary, the number two corner. Some people have him as the number one corner in this draft. He's excellent value here at 23. He's a smart football player, knows for the football, makes a lot of great plays. I don't love this pick because it's a very good pick for the Green Bay Packers here, obviously for them. But Will Johnson is a guy who's going to make plays, more of a zone corner, but he just has a nose for the football. He did get beat deep a lot of the times, but Green Bay runs a lot of too high safety and protections. I mean, Jair Alexander had the most double protections over the top for an elite corner in the NFL whenever he was available. So Green Bay's got no problem keeping that same philosophy for them. So Will Johnson, a really strong pick for the Packers here at 23. Okay, now my Vikings on the clock here at 24. And if this is what the board looks like for my Vikings, I'm going to be ecstatic. We got lots of value here. Maybe they go running back, Amarion Hampton. I think Jordan Mason trade probably prevents them from doing that. Gray Zabel is a very realistic option here. Plug him in. Swing tackle, could probably move him into left guard and start right away, potentially for the Vikings. Don't love any of the D linemen at this spot, but you really need some back end help. You need some corner help. So Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron are off the board. I'm going with Malachi Starks, the safety out of Georgia. I think he's a really good fit for this Brian Flores defense. You need a safety that can cover people. You already have your hybrid safeties that play around the line of scrimmage. So a guy like Nick Imawari, I don't think is the fit for them. They got to replace Cam Bynum, and Harrison Smith is on his last leg, probably his final season in the NFL. So you need some back end help. Everyone runs those too high. And Malachi Starks is an excellent coverage guy, and he's really good coming up and helping in the run game. Smart football player, great ball skills, really good fit for a Brian Flores defense. So if Malachi Starks can fall to us here, I'm going to be ecstatic for my Vikings at 24. 25, the Houston Texans. For the love of God, offensive line, please. I know they could use wide receivers. Tank Dell's probably out for the season. You still got Nico Collins. Luther Burden is pretty much Tank Dell, but not as good. Emeka Buka would be a really nice fit here. But this offensive line is so bad. Everything I'm reading is they have to attack the offensive line. And a perfect fit for them is a guy like Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. He can play tackle. He can play left tackle, right tackle, guard. He's probably going to play guard. But if you need him to play tackle, address the offensive line. CJ Stroud was just under duress for pretty much the entire season, and that's why I think why we saw the regression in him last year. Fix up the trenches in Houston. We can worry about wide receiver later. We'll figure out wide receiver. We got to protect our young franchise quarterback in CJ Stroud. The defense is really good, pretty much carried that team to that first playoff win, and we're really good in that game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Offensive line is the issue. Offensive line is king. Offensive line wins you Super Bowls. Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State for the Houston Texans. Okay, another interesting spot. The board doesn't look great for the LA Rams. Potentially could go a tackle like Josh Simmons out there coming off the knee injury. Maybe a wide receiver. Devontae Adams is getting up there. You still have Puka Nacua as a young stud. But I think they go defense here. I think they get a little bit spicy. And the question is, who is the right fit for them on the defense? Trey Amos, a cornerback out of Ole Miss, is a very solid pick. But a guy who's been taking a lot of visits and flying up the boards and maybe didn't live up to his potential this year because this whole team had a struggle is a guy like Maxwell Harrison out of Kentucky. Really, really good defensive back. pretty solid 40 time, great in coverage, good ball skills. I just think it was a weird season for these Kentucky defensive guys. I mean, if you look at the two top Kentucky defensive guys, they were easy first round picks heading into last season. It was just such a disastrous season for that program. I think Maxwell Hairston is a really good fit for LA. They keep getting that defense better. It's young, it's fast, it's exciting. You got Stafford, you got Devontae, you got Kyron Williams, you got Puka Nacua. I'm not worried about the offense. It's kind of a win now for the LA Rams. So keep getting that defense younger, more experience, get them out there. You're not paying them, you're paying the entire offense. So I think that's the approach the Rams take with their first pick at 26. Okay, 27, we got the Baltimore Ravens. Really good pick here. And I think we're about to see a big run on edge rushers here. Ravens desperately need an edge rusher. Go get after the quarterback. We need a Terrell Suggs type guy. They've just, they have had some decent defensive linemen, good defensive linemen. They can stop the run, but just no dog out there to go get the quarterbacks. And I think James Pierce out of Tennessee is a really good fit. Big physical athlete, a ton of potential, is going to be a guy that can get coached up, no problem, I think. Really, really excited for him as a fit for this Baltimore Ravens team. I think they just need to get after quarterbacks. Like, the offense is the offense. No great wide receivers here like Luther Burden. We've tried that with Hollywood Brown. Emeka Egbuka potentially. I think they're okay with the offense. Keep this defense as strong as it possibly can be. Run the football with Derrick Henry. Run the football with Lamar. Maybe they get really ballsy, go on Amarion Hampton, which would be kind of crazy to do. I mean, Derrick Henry is getting a little up there in age, but defense. Let's go get after these quarterbacks. We need to get after Joe Burrow. We need to get after Patrick Mahomes. We need to get after Josh Allen. So James Pierce here at 27 for the Ravens. And like I said, run on DNs is going to continue. Kind of an interesting spot. Maybe the Lions go with a guy like Luther Burden or Emeka Egbuka. Wide receiver is potentially a need for them. But we got the Sun God. We got Amon-Ra St. Brown. We got to bolster this defense. We got to get our edge guys going. We saw what happened to this team when Aiden Hutchinson went down. They really struggled to get after the quarterback. They really struggled to rush the passer. The defensive injuries are the defensive injuries, but you got to have depth. You got to have more depth. And I love a guy like Mykel Williams, a big physical athlete, a freak out there. Maybe the production wasn't the best for him, but when you get a guy like him and Aiden Hutchinson, who's going to be drawing the double teams, Williams is going to wreak havoc on the other side of the football. And the Lions kind of know this, man. This is their window. This is the year. Like, last year was the year, but this is really the year. You lost both your coordinators. It's all in the chips, or it's going to blow up in Detroit here very fast. Your window is always smaller than you thought. And Brad Holmes has done an excellent job drafting on this team. Keep up the pressure, keep up the pass rush, especially in the NFC North. We got teams like Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago out there. You got to figure out ways to get stops against those high-flying offenses. So a guy like Mykel Williams, a really good fit for Detroit. Okay, the Washington Commanders at 29, maybe our feel-good story of the season, make it all the way to the NFC Championship game, do an excellent job addressing the offensive line, trading for Laramie Tunsil, help protect their young quarterback. I do like their running back room. We got a guy like B-Rob. We got, even Austin Eckler showed a little bit of something there, but a guy like Amarion Hampton could really take this offense to the next level. Another weapon. And Cliff Kingsbury, in his heart of hearts, loves running the football. He wants to run the ball. We saw it in Arizona with James Conner. And Amarion Hampton, I think, is a stud at running back. Plug him into this offense. The defense, again, another thing that we can address later in this draft. It's a good, deep defensive line draft. Dan Quinn, defensive guy. I'm not worried about that. Let's get Amarion Hampton. Let's really upgrade this offense. Let's give our young franchise quarterback all the tools to succeed and avoid that sophomore slump, because it feels like Washington is close. Again, they got blown out by Philly, but they're close, man. Philly's probably going to take a little bit of a step back. This could be a run. The window is always shorter and it's always sooner than you expect it to be. So why not go in at another big time home run weapon for the Commanders at 29 and Amarion Hampton. Okay, 30, we got the Buffalo Bills. And like I said, we're going to see a run on pass rushers. Let's keep it rolling here. We got two, out of the last three. Let's make it three out of the last four. Let's go Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M. Now, the production isn't always there for him. Not the best production for him at A&M, but all the physical assets, all the tools are there. Just always kind of felt like you wanted a little bit more, but monster combine, really good workouts out there. I think this is a really nice pick for Buffalo. You got to get after these quarterbacks, man. We saw it. This Bills defense was so bad last year. I mean, they couldn't get stops against the Chiefs. They couldn't get after Mahomes. Got to get after Mahomes, got to get after Lamar Jackson, got to get after Joe Burrow. That's the theme. All these elite AFC teams at the back end, you got to get after quarterbacks, man. You got to make their life miserable. Shamar Stewart, a really good fit. Had a guy like Von Miller out there. He's on the back end. We know about that. But Aggie guy, I like the connection. Give me Shamar Stewart out of A&M to the Buffalo Bills. Okay, this is kind of an easy one if you're the Kansas City Chiefs. And if this is what you're looking at on the board, I'm pretty ecstatic as a Chiefs fan. We need to address the offensive line. Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. Now, I do know they signed a left tackle potentially, but the guy was really a backup, doesn't have a lot of reps under him, but the Chiefs liked him. They have been so bad at the offensive line position. Just keep drafting tackles. You got to get it right eventually. I mean, they've let the wrong guys go. They've signed the wrong guys out there. But I really like Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. I don't know necessarily when he's going to be available, but he doesn't have to come in and play right away. You can work him back up there. But this offensive line was it's a disaster. You lose Joe Thuney. You lose some of the interior. Just please get the offensive line better. Protect Patrick Mahomes, because that's 2 Super Bowls now where they've been blown out, and the main reason has been because of how disastrous that offensive line is. So Josh Simmons here to the Chiefs at 31. I'm ecstatic if I'm a Chiefs fan. Let's bolster that offensive line. And finally, your defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles need to upgrade on the defense. A guy like Nick Scorton would be a pretty nice fit here for them. I think defensive end, you got to be able to rush the passer, got to get after a guy. But the board is a little bit too juicy for me, and the rich are going to get richer. A really good fit for the Philadelphia Eagles right here. Luther Burden III out of Missouri, a burner wide receiver. Put him in there. You already got Devontae Smith. You have A.J. Brown. Now, A.J. Brown trade rumors keep spiraling out of control. But I think if you run him out there, a true number 3 wide receiver, you can move Devontae to the slot, which makes him even deadlier, I think. And you have a guy like Burden on the outside who's stretching the ball downfield. Big physical A.J. Brown who can also stretch the defense. Just gives this offense a million more weapons and potential out there. And plus, you still have the best running back in the NFL with Saquon Barkley. The defense is still really good. The secondary is only going to get better for them. So I think Luther Burden is just an extreme value pick here. Potentially another defensive end for the Eagles, but I like that pick at 32. So that's going to do it for us, guys. That's our final mock draft of the 2025 offseason. The draft will be live Thursday night, and we will be live on the channel, so be sure to stop in. I'll be covering and reacting to the entire first round. I'll have my first round draft grades video out on Friday, as well as my overall draft grades video out on Sunday or Saturday night, depending on how fast I get that thing done. But I do appreciate everybody stopping by. If you haven't already, drop a quick like on this video, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We got daily sports content. If you want to support the channel more, sign up for a channel membership. You get all sorts of access to cool and exclusive perks. Help support me, allows me to keep making this great content for you guys every single day. Check out the links down below. We got our community Discord where you guys can chat, talk ball with stuff, plus best way to message me as well. And it's playoff season, NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, baseball season's getting into swing. Head on over to SeatGeek.com. Use code AfterTheReview for $20 off your first purchase. That's SeatGeek.com. Code AfterTheReview for $20 off your first purchase. Check out one of your teams live and in person. Again, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.